Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Do It Yourself Bookkeeping 101. I'm Rochelle. I'm super excited to welcome to this episode Jim from Insight Imaging. Now, Jim is an incredibly knowledgeable business owner who has an exciting story to tell, and he's located in Northern California. So hi, Jim, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Rochelle. Thank you.
So I know we had a conversation recently about a letter that you received. Can you share some portions of that letter?
Sure. So to back up a little bit, my wife and I purchased a radiology practice last year, and in transitioning into kind of getting up to speed on how things worked with the business and learning the ins and outs, we decided that certain functions we were going to take over. And one of those was the bookkeeping. We weren't happy during the transition with how things were going, and we weren't getting the information that we wanted in a timely manner. So at one point, we just told our former bookkeeper, hey, we're going to take over and do this ourselves. And so after this point, we had a lot of frustrations with our bookkeeper because she was always questioning things like, what's this expense to such and such place, this is for a CME, which is like a continuing medical education seminar. And it was all legitimate things, but it was just like frustrating because we always felt like we were being undermined by our own bookkeeper. And when I told her I was taking over, she sent me this long email telling me, well, here's what you need to do. This is the information. This is the QuickBooks file. And at the end, she said, I suggest you really, I'm quoting here, I suggest that you really look long and hard at how everything is done. I may be wrong, but I'm assuming that you have no real full-time bookkeeping experience. If that is the case, I wish you luck. It will not be easy. And it was just another, I know you can probably read this in multiple ways, but just from our relationship with her is like, hey, good luck. You're not going to figure this out. And that was just kind of the I don't know if the right term is impetus. That's what I needed to feel my fire. Okay, I can do this. And that's when
wow.
when I knew it.
Okay, so you talked about that. So was that your motivation to consider doing your own books? Was that letter?
No, I was already going to do it. This was just like, I'm pretty sure I can handle this. I've been through 7 years of post-high school education. I think I can handle learning how to bookkeep. I've taken an accounting class. I'm not an expert on it, and as you know, I'm not the greatest, but I can figure things out. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of where that stemmed from, though.
So now you're at the process where you're like, okay, so now I am in charge of my bookkeeping. So what was your first step?
So the first step was I had this file, this QuickBooks file, and given her advice, I was to go buy QuickBooks desktop version, a QuickBooks desktop version and install on my computer and figure out how it works. And I did that, and I just didn't really feel like I didn't like the way it worked. And I've used online software programs or online bookkeeping programs in the past, Wave apps, and I can't remember, Stessa, another one I used for real estate. And so I was more familiar with that kind of format. And so that's when I was like, okay, maybe I need to get some help. And that's when I reached out to you, and you helped me kind of navigate through the desktop version. And then thankfully, you kind of steered me towards a more online version of QuickBooks. And so I moved to QuickBooks Online, and that process was a lot easier than I had imagined, and I just kind of fell in love with all the automations that it provided and just the access to real-time information, at least how I felt, like in comparison to our old bookkeeping.
During that transition period, I'm sure you encountered some obstacles. Did you ever feel like you were overwhelmed? Did you ever feel like, what did I do? What did I get myself into? Did you feel any of that along the way?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that for sure. I mean, in fact, that's why I reached out to you. I was like, okay, I don't know how to reconcile the old books with what's going on now, and there's just things I don't understand. And so it was I think initially it was a little bit overwhelming, like the process, just understanding how the old bookkeeper took care of things, and then how I could maybe modify or improve those things to where they were taken care of automatically. And a lot of it was, there were so many of our expenses that could have been automated that weren't. We were cutting checks every month, and it was just like, it was tedious and overwhelming. And I think kind of getting a good base of and a good system in place was like step one.
So for you, a really good place was having a good software or just having your entire process in place. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand. Like, I guess at first it was overwhelming because I just didn't understand the process exactly how it worked. I didn't understand like how you had to, create an expense and then go in there and enter. And then that was a little bit like foreign to me. But then having it to where I could get my, I could forward my receipts or my invoices through my email to my QuickBooks and then have it show up and then match it. Like those things, that's what I was looking. I was looking for something like that to where it was more automated. And I think once I understood that the online version, the online accounting version could handle those processes, it got me to a level of confidence that, okay, if I can do this, this will be, this isn't going to consume my every waking hour. I don't have to wake up every day and check QuickBooks or my accounting software to make sure everything's aligned. I can do this once a week or even less than. And I feel like now having a good process or having a good system in place has really freed me up a lot.
So I know you talked about having a system in place. During this process, did you have any tools that you found were helpful for you in the beginning stages?
I'm pretty inquisitive, so just being able to get on to online forums was helpful. Okay, is this an expense? What category should this go in? And I'll if I don't really understand clearly, I'll ask someone like you, and that's helpful to have resources out there. And I love the fact that like QuickBooks and even other online forums out there like have a ton of answers out there that you can just I'm not the first person probably to think of whatever the problem is, like how to reconcile my my credit card statement or my bank account statement. So it's like it's nice to have resources like that and to to know that you're not the only one that's kind of struggling maybe at first to figure these things out.
All right, and so for our listeners, I'm going to put a link to what Jim is talking about, which is the QuickBooks online forum. I'm going to put a link so you guys can definitely look at that as an option. Thank you for that, Jim. Now, looking back, it's been a little bit. What would, if you could do it again, and I'm sure you wouldn't like to, but if you could do it again, what would you change about any aspects of your do-it-yourself bookkeeping journey?
Yeah, I probably would have, like, knowing what I know now, I probably would have taken over a lot sooner.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I just think because, like, there was at least, 8 months where we struggled to get information that we needed. And we were in the process of getting, loans and underwriting loans and for our business. And, the banker would reach out and say, hey, we need an updated profit and loss statement or balance sheet. And it would take my bookkeeper over a week to get that information to us because she had to manually go in there, update everything. And we weren't priority or necessarily, we weren't the only, we weren't her only client. So who knows when she was going to get to that. Mm-hmm. And so for me, having control of the information, it was huge. And I think knowing now that it's really, once you set it up correctly and have a basic understanding of how things, the workflow of accounting, then it seems to work pretty well. And so, I would definitely, if you're on the fence, like thinking, oh, shoot, should I do this or should I continue with my bookkeeper? First off, if you have the time to do it, you should do it because it helps you understand your business, like what you're spending, what's coming in. Like those are invaluable things to know and understand. Some people just don't really, they're not numbers people and they just don't really care about those details. But if you're in business and you run your own business, you have to know those things. It's imperative. And so that's kind of where, that's why I think looking back, like, this is like one of the first things I should have jumped into. And taking over the business, we should have been like, hey, this is our plan to take over accounting. Can you please help us transition immediately? And that's what we should have done, but we didn't, because we were just kind of overwhelmed with the other aspects of starting, of taking over a business. And that's understandable too. So, I mean, you have to do what's best for you and your situation. But for, and probably it worked out the way it was supposed to, but it's definitely one of those things where it's very important to understand the numbers.
Absolutely. And my last question, if you could pass on maybe one or two helpful tools for our listener, maybe they're in the same position you were a few months ago or later, what would those one or two tools be?
If you're already, let's say your bookkeeper that you have that's helping you or doing it for you is already using QuickBooks Online, maybe you could ask them just to show you how it works first, or to give you access. I think if you're planning on doing this, there's so many resources out there. Go find someone that is knowledgeable in this space and pay them to help you. Like, it's worth the time. It's worth the money to understand it, and it's just great having someone that understands your business, understands how it operates, and can be a resource to you. Because the bottom line is, if you're a business owner, you don't need to know everything about everything. You need to know how to do some things very well, and other things you need to learn how to do. And there'll probably be a time where you don't have the time to bookkeep, and hopefully that's the case for me as well. Like, down the road, maybe we're so busy that I don't have to do this anymore, or don't want to do this, but I still have the basic understanding of how it works. So surround yourself with people, find people that can help you. And then if you have the bandwidth and the time, do it, because it's invaluable. And then if you don't, or if you become too busy to do it, then I think, yeah, great. Find a good team member that can do this for you.
Fantastic. Jim, words of wisdom. And so I want to say thank you to Jim from Insight Imaging for taking the time and sharing some of your words of wisdom that you've learned on your journey, your do-it-yourself bookkeeping journey. For those of you who are listening, hopefully these points were helpful for you. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.